Good afternoon, Karen.
Hi, David. It's good to be here on a Thursday. It's a little different because it's not Tuesday, but nice to be here all the same.
And you have a new microphone.
I do have a new
You're
microphone.
like a copycat now.
Yeah.
Good. Well, so it's nice to have you here. We're excited to talk about our topic today is what is a healthy relationship really like? And I thought it might be important for us to share that because a lot of people may have never been taught, or they say, well, I never learned, or I didn't have a role model, my parents didn't weren't they got divorced, or I didn't have a mom, or my dad was an alcoholic, so nobody ever taught me. So part of this today is, okay, let's discuss from our perspective what does a healthy relationship look like in your when you're married, and how do we achieve that?
Yep.
So can you give a little introduction to yourself, Karen, and then I forgot to introduce myself. So
Of
let me
course.
let me go back to hi. I'm David Cope. I'm a founder of a new life center with my partner Peggy. I got involved in relationships because I got a divorce in the year 2000, and having a loving and intimate relationship with another woman was really important to me. I spent the last 15 years understanding how the mind works and creates these experiences that we have. And I realized that in order to have a healthy relationship with another person, I have to first start with myself. So for the last 15 years, I've been working on and teaching others how to build a relationship with themselves so they have a sense of wholeness within themselves and aren't needy and needing others to fill that emptiness within them. So, Karen, can you talk a little bit about your background for a minute?
Of, of course. Well, I was one of those people that was fortunate enough to come into the program at a new life center almost 4 years ago and learn how to have a relationship with myself. And a very big part of my own journey in that was learning how to have a healthy relationship with myself by working on myself through my marriage. And in that process, I began working with others, teaching this program through my own experience and actually learning how to be a true teacher and actually be doing the things that
Mhm.
I'm teaching my clients how to do, I'm doing in my own marriage. So I've been working with others in this program for almost 4 years, and I'm very passionate about it. One of the most rewarding parts of my day is seeing people day in and day out, and
Mhm.
they're literally transforming before my eyes and come in excited and ready to share about their shifts. So our relationship program is unlike anything else out there, and it's just very exciting to be sharing it and teaching these concepts. So thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. You have a big smile on your face as you're just talking about it, so it's nice to share this with you. And I'm looking forward to what you're going to share today.
Yeah, I am
So
too.
I think this ties in with the three principal concepts that we share in this group is one that you are responsible for your own happiness. So these are kind of the three foundational principles of our group are really foundations of what makes a healthy relationship when you're in a partnership with somebody else. And the first is that you're responsible for your own happiness, that nobody can make you happy. And to put the responsibility of your happiness on your partner, your husband, is something that's impossible. I know when I was married, I often was told that my wife would be happy if if only I had would do be doing something different. In other words, that I was the reason why she was unhappy, and it was a constant struggle in our marriage. Her believing that I was the source of our unhappiness, and actually. Throughout my marriage, I actually thought that that was one of my responsibilities is to do everything I could possibly to make her happy. I'm a good man, and I wanted to do everything to possible to make her happy. But no matter what I did, I could never make her happy, and I kept trying and trying and trying, and I think sometimes she even got tired of me trying because it was never, I never could do it right. It was interestingly though, after my marriage, after my divorce, and when I had time to start learning about myself, I realized this huge epiphany that, oh my gosh, I never could have made her happy. And I would tell people that I finally figured out that I never could have made my wife happy. And they said, well, of course, everybody knows that you can't make somebody else happy, but certainly when I was in it, and the expectations of a lot of women are that it's the responsibility of their husband to make them happy, or probably more importantly, that their husbands are their source of their unhappiness. So it's really clear to me that in my own experience is that you can't make anybody happy, and it almost, when you're in a marriage, you almost believe that that's what's supposed to be happening until, in my case, when I got out of it and started learning about the responsibilities that I had and how I created my issues in my marriage, and so I could learn and grow, is that I could never have made her happy, because you can't make somebody happy who isn't happy within themselves. So part of having a happy marriage is to be responsible for your own happiness. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that might look like. And the second thing we talk about is you only can change yourself. And often when we go into marriages, that's what happens. And again, this is a group for for women, so we're going to talk about women's issues. And remember, when I do this, it doesn't mean men don't have their own issues and have to work on themselves. But often women get married thinking that they're going to change their husband, or I know there's a part of him that is in there, but he has all these other habits that I don't like, and I'm going to work to change him to get the parts that I really want. And what the problem with that is that you can't have a happy marriage and a healthy one if you're trying to change your partner. Part of a loving and intimate relationship is that the foundation is acceptance, self-acceptance. And we, in a very broad sense, we often talk about unconditional love, which is really a very difficult thing to achieve in reality in a relationship, because in order to have unconditional love, we have to love ourselves unconditionally. We have to have full self-acceptance of who we are. And in order to accept somebody else and not want to change them, you have to learn to have self-acceptance with who you are. If you accept yourself for who you are, you don't need to change anybody else, because naturally you're going to accept others for who they are, because at a deep level you accept yourself. And the third thing is that intimacy starts with you or with me, and you can't have, your husband can never provide you with intimacy. It's an impossible thing to do unless you are having the capacity to have intimacy with yourself. And it's one of the most difficult things for people to understand, is that somebody can't give you something that you don't already have yourself. So we all have heard is that nobody can love you until you love yourself, and we talk about that, but that's really is true. So in order to have intimacy and have somebody else uh, make, make you feel loved and intimate is impossible until you've developed that within yourself, and you feel whole within yourself, so that you can actually experience your partner when when, in this case, a husband tries to show you affection, that you can actually feel it, experience it. Because what happens when we don't love ourselves, or we don't have intimacy with ourselves, we can't experience that from somebody else. Our mind wants to tell us we can, but one of the things you learn is, when you're not whole and you want others to provide something for you, it's like you have this sieve that everything somebody gives you goes into a bowl, but it has holes in it. It doesn't stay, because you're not complete as a container to be able to hold that. And that's why we have these struggles in our marriages because we're incomplete and unfulfilled within ourselves. So that our principles kind of tie into what it really makes to have a loving and intimate relationship and what makes a healthy relationship.
It really
So
is the roadmap,
it
those three
is, and
principles.
yes, and so Karen, you did a lovely articulation about what a healthy relationship is for you. Would you mind sharing that?
I would love to share it. I spent some time with myself. Just one of the things I've learned in having a relationship with myself is really taking the time to understand what these things mean to me. And so I will share what I wrote. So I asked myself, what is a healthy relationship? And for me, this is what it is. I am a unique and complete individual, independent of my husband or anyone else. I stand on my own. I learn to bring my whole self into the relationship, already having everything I need inside of me. I learn to be in partnership, not enmeshment, already fully intact and 100% responsible for myself and my emotional state.
Mm.
I need nothing from my partner and accept him for who he is. I am able to care for my partner and my relationship without expectations of a return on my investment
Mm. Beautiful.
because I am already fully caring for myself. I am already happy inside and do not need my partner to do anything to make me happy. And in being with a good man is naturally loving and caring. So when I show up genuinely loving and caring, not needing anything from him, he is already there, ready to be
Mm.
loving and caring back. And the only way I could have known this was to actually walk through it and give myself this experience for a long time in my my own path and doing this work, working with alongside David and Peggy. They were trying to help me to see this. Karen, if you change and you show up differently and you take your walls down and you let Adam in, that's my husband, he's going to show up and you will have a healthy relationship, but you've got to go first. And I
Yeah.
fought that and I fought that and I fought that. Um, and slowly but surely I started taking those baby steps in these directions. And this is exactly what I'm getting in myself and in my marriage. And I would not have believed it, could not have believed it had I not done the work to
Mm.
experience this myself.
Yeah. Thank you. And Karen, that was a lovely articulation. It was so beautiful and clear.
Thank you.
And the cool thing is that you could only have written that from your own experience because it was so heartfelt and genuine. So thank you for being who you are and sharing your gift to other women so that they know that in a way, if you can do it, Karen, that all the women can because your relationships and your struggles are very common and similar to a lot of the women that are looking for a way to find themselves and reconnect with themselves first in their marriages so they can have the relationship they've always dreamed with. So thanks for being a mentor and a guide for the women in the group. Thank
Of
you.
course. Yeah, and I couldn't have said that better myself. If I could do this,
Yeah,
really, and I tell all my clients this, if I can do this, you can absolutely do this. We just have to want it and we have to
yeah,
want to do the work. So
yeah.
very
And
true.
the cool thing is and unfortunately women, the way this works is that you have to take the steps first
Yeah.
and be brave enough and courageous enough to open your heart and drop your walls and be willing to be vulnerable in this path of the unknown because there's three things that can happen in a relationship when you are with somebody with a husband and you drop your walls and let him in is he may he may not be willing to keep up with you, and you may outgrow him,
Yeah.
and or you could realize that he when you open your heart that the relationship doesn't have a foundation to go long term, and you might have to leave. So the other part is that you both come together and grow and learn, because you when you step up your game and open your heart, your husband follows you. And but there's a lot of risks that we have to be willing to take in opening our heart and be vulnerable, that it is so critical to having a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Can you share some of the real life challenges that you have in your marriage, and realizing this is really kind of a journey. It isn't like, okay, I take a pill and all of a sudden, my heart's open and I have this wonderful relationship. You begin to build that as a foundation, but you're constantly having to make choices to choose yourself in a constructive way and to make the relationship healthy. Can you share some of the challenges you've had recently
Yeah.
in your marriage?
Well, I think that's a really good point because in having in being on the journey of having a healthy marriage and relationship, it's not easy. It's not like it's without the ups and downs or without the hurt or without the disappointment or unexpected change or even planned change. All of those things are still a part of a healthy relationship. It's learning how to move through those challenges and how to move through those ups and downs as myself,
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to take care of myself through that so that I'm not, I call it leeching. So I'm not leeching off of my husband to take care of me through those ups and downs. I've got to be able to do that for myself. So, and recently in sharing about my again my husband with his new job has been such a huge opportunity for me to grow even more and become even healthier in my relationship with myself and therein with him. So my husband recently got a new job, which I've mentioned on several videos, and the time commitment for him to get through his training process at this job was very demanding. And he was so wonderful in the beginning. And this is a result of me opening up and letting him in. This is not something he would have done before because of how much I had pushed him away and he had withdrawn from me. And so as I take my walls down, he shows up in these new ways that are really wonderful to experience him with. And at the beginning, he let me know, listen, I just want you to know that I'm going to be needing to study. His training was a week and a half, or almost 2 weeks. He said, I'm going to need to be studying every day because he had a test um, every single day in his training. And he said, and he is working in the evenings. And so he's like, I'm not going to really be around and I need to be 100% focused in this. And that was so wonderful for him just to say that up front and to let me know so that I could be prepared to know that I was going to need to do my own thing and take care of myself. And when his training began in the beginning, I was
Mm-hmm.
throwing a bit of a temper tantrum and kind of pissed off that I was going to need to fend for myself for these 2 weeks and that we weren't going to be able to have our date night. We weren't going to be able to really see each other in the evening or during the day. And I was on my own. And I caught myself in the beginning because I felt hurt and I had feelings of feeling ignored and feeling unimportant and feeling like I wasn't a priority and feeling neglected. All of that was coming up in me. And in the beginning, I wanted to put that on my husband and blame him that that's why I was feeling that way. And so as a result, I wasn't very kind to him the first few days of his training. And I was emasculating him, making him feel bad for not paying me the attention that I expected him to pay me. And and with these I've been working on myself in this way for, like I said, for almost 4 years. So to kind of talk about the journey of this, um, it it's natural and normal for these sorts of things to come up when we're going through a change or a transition in life or in our marriage. So a part of me, because of the work I've done, I expected a little bit of this. So it became much easier for me to catch it in myself and have the self-awareness of what was going on in me so I could change direction and put my big girl pants on and support myself while my husband was doing something very important to him that is a huge step for him in his own growth, to be able to switch directions and say, okay, Karen, you're going to be just fine. And I have a lot going on too. So once I opened up and I worked through some of those initial feelings coming up, then I was able to really commit to my own life and the things that I had going on. So it was kind of exciting. And then that allowed, with the space between my husband and it allowed us to I still felt a connection and closeness with him in our marriage, even though we weren't spending a lot of time together, because I wasn't mad at him and resenting and holding a grudge because he was off doing his own thing. So all the normal challenges still came up. Old feelings of jealousy came up that I hadn't worked through because he was going to be around new women, and I don't know who these women are, and they're going to be prettier than me, and they're going to do all these things. And I had to realize it wasn't my husband making me feel that. It wasn't his new job making me feel that. Those were deep insecurities that I have had in myself since as long as I can remember, when I started having crushes on boys in middle school or grade school. So all those old things came up, which gave me the opportunity then to look at them, work through them, and move on, not wallow in them and take it out on my husband. And in that process, I was doing all of my cooking, and I was also cooking extra because I knew he didn't have the time. So it felt so nice to be supportive of him with what he was going through. And it showed me how much strength I actually have in myself, and how much capacity I do have to work hard and do the things I need to do, and how good I felt about myself being able to step up to the plate and take care of myself in that way and support my husband and keep my career going and entertain myself. All of that felt so good. And there were moments in it where I did feel lonely and I did feel alone. And I got the opportunity to actually support myself and comfort myself through that. It's not like it was just rainbows and roses the whole time. There were challenges in it, but to be able to have that interaction with myself and feel me inside of me, supporting myself through that, that was such a gift to myself. And then when my husband and I had the opportunity to come back together and spend some quality time, which was just this past Tuesday, and we hadn't had any quality time together for 2 weeks pretty much. Instead of being, like pouty and you've been gone for 2 weeks and I've had to do all the cooking and I've had to do all the cleaning and I've had to da 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 da, I was actually so excited to see him and spend time with him and could actually ask him meaningful, thoughtful questions about his experience and how he was enjoying his new job and how are the people that you work with and what was your favorite part and what was the hardest part, and being able to engage in that way after being apart and sharing with him some of the things I've been learning and going through. And we had such a lovely evening together. Old Karen would have been completely walled off, wouldn't have asked him anything about himself, probably would have bitched about what I had to do for myself with him training. And he would have just felt like he had done something wrong and that he couldn't do anything right. And then he would shut down and pull away. And we probably would have both been on the computer or watching our own stuff and not really connected. So it was a really good experience to see how much we've each grown and our relationship. but to also know there were still challenges and bumps in the road along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Karen. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah.
Lovely. I want to just touch on a part that you talked about at the end, how when you got together Tuesday night that you really had what most women would say is an intimate interaction with your husband. I
Yeah.
know they feel that intimacy is more an emotional connection rather than necessarily a physical connection generally, where men, are more directed to intimacy in a physical way. But you just described a very intimate interaction where you're asking questions that are meaningful and caring about it. But you can see in that example, I hope that when your walls are up and you're angry or you're have an attitude or you're not grounded in yourself, that you can't have that intimate reaction because you're only thinking about yourself and what you haven't gotten rather than being open and feeling good that, as you shared, when you are in a healthy relationship, when you do things for your husband like you did, it makes you feel good about yourself. When you do it from an open heart, when your walls are down, you do it, I'm to repeat myself, it makes you feel good that you're doing it. When our walls are up and we're trying to do the same thing, we feel resentment for doing things because we feel like we're giving something of ourself to somebody else and that person is taking away something from ourselves. So we always feel like we're giving of ourselves because our walls are up and we're not filling ourselves up. So we're always feeling like somebody is taking something from us and there's a big resentment. So a healthy relationship really requires a sense of an open heart and a sharing, not for what you get in return, but what it makes you feel good about yourself. The more you do things in a healthy relationship with an open heart and your walls down, the more it makes you feel good about yourself. Even though you're doing this for your husband,
Hmm.
but you're not actually, you're doing it for yourself, and your husband is the beneficiary of your open heart. And it really was a wonderful way for you to describe that. And thank you so much.
Of course. We often use the analogy of baking
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that. Yeah, and that
Mm,
it one of the things I really like to do is to bake, and I pick the recipe, I go to the store, I get all the ingredients, I do the work in the kitchen. And one of my favorite things about baking something delicious is then to share it with someone else and enjoy it together. They didn't do any of the work, but it's so rewarding to share it with them. And that's really what this is like in a healthy relationship. I'm doing these things to build a relationship with myself, to be an adult, to do the things I need to do. And I do that and feel good about myself. And then my husband gets to benefit from that. And he appreciates it so much because it is being given freely. There are no expectations of what I want back. And I'm not perfect either. I have plenty to learn, and there's still plenty of times where I catch myself doing things out of obligation or as I should and expecting something back. And that's just part of the learning process. That's
mhm.
part of the package in being in a marriage or being in a long term committed relationship. So,
Great.
yeah.
So I just want to describe some of the things that make a healthy relationship.
Mhm.
We might review a little bit some new, but the key piece in a healthy relationship is that I have to feel a unique individual, independent in my experience of myself, and not intertwined with my partner so I lose myself. So the key is being able to build a relationship with yourself so that you know who you are, so you can have that independence in the relationship. What we do is in the intertwinement, we lose ourselves, and often women say in their marriages, "I don't know who I am. I've lost myself," and that's a very empty and lonely feeling, which is caused by the inability to know who we are and stay grounded in it And when we meet our partners, we come together with our partner knowing who we are as two independent people who come together to share the experience of themselves as who they are in the experience of a marriage. And part of knowing who you are is in that developing a relationship with yourself is what we teach in our relationship class. And all these things, when you know who you are, you believe in yourself and you take opportunities to get outside of your comfort zone. Often, women, common thing is my marriage is boring. My husband is boring. It's the monotony of our marriage. Well, that comes from a place of being boring and monotonous within yourself. And in order to overcome that monotony, the routineness of a marriage isn't to expect the marriage or your husband to be the source of the things that make you, excited in your marriage. It's you have to be your own excitement. And you do that by finding things in your life that push you outside your comfort zone. So you're always engaging in life in a way that feels renewed and exciting, and finding things uh, to push you to know who you are and to feel good about yourself. What happens is we get into this routine of our marriage, and we begin to think and expect our partner, our husband, to make our marriage interesting or stimulating, or he's responsible for making sure that we have fun date nights out. But in a healthy relationship, I'm responsible for providing that. I bring my own energy and excitement, which I create by having a life that I am creating and that feels good about myself. So I bring that into my marriage and not have that dependency on my partner to create and make me feel interesting or exciting. So the key in one of the keys in knowing who I am and believing in myself and feeling good is making sure we're choosing things in our life that constantly push us outside our comfort zone. Because in our comfort zone we become stable and known, and it becomes comfortable, and a routineness begins, and before you know it, life feels stale and safe and comfortable. And it's our responsibility in a healthy relationship to create our own interest and intrigue within ourselves. I often say if you're bored in your marriage, it's because you're bored with yourself. And it's not your partner's responsibility to make you feel alive. It's yours by creating your life and being responsible for your own happiness. And then you bring that to your partner, and it takes the burden off your partner to create an environment that makes you feel excited about yourself and life. How
Well
we doing?
said.
Yeah.
You're doing great. I remember the first time that I was complaining about being bored and oh, there's just nothing. And I remember the first time David said to me, "If you're bored with Adam, you're bored with yourself." And it was like, oh, because then I knew I had to do the work to
Yeah.
re-engage with myself
Yeah.
and give myself the life that I wanted him to give to me.
Say that again.
I had to learn to give myself the life
Oh,
that I
beautiful.
wanted my husband to give to me.
Wow. That's so
And
perfect.
when I give myself that life,
Mhm.
then I get to share that experience with my husband, and it takes that burden off, and it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautifully said.
thanks.
So one of the challenges that we have is, well, why don't we take responsibility for our life? And that's because we often are victims, and what the mind does is it makes us believe that our husband is the source of our unhappiness. That's why we constantly want to try to change our husband.
Mhm.
And what we want to begin to do is, instead of being a victim of our circumstances, meaning my circumstances are, my husband is distant, and we have kids, and we've lost ourselves. But when we're a victim of our circumstances, we are powerless to make changes. But when we realize that we can be the product of our choices, then we empower ourselves to say, okay, what choices do I want to make to move myself forward to create the life that I want to have in my marriage? And then I empower myself to, to be the heroine, in the case of a woman, of where my marriage and life is going, and not be dependent upon my partner to provide that for me, or even to be partially responsible for that. Because if I put part of the responsibility of my happiness or the relationship of my partner, then I'm not fully responsible for committing to making myself whole and to do the work for myself that allows me to be the best I can be and feel the best I can about myself. So can you kind of do a recap, Karen? For
Sure.
what is a healthy relationship look like?
Yeah, so today that's exactly what we're talking about. What does a healthy relationship look like? And I think in summarizing it, it's also good in summarizing what we've talked about today to know what's not a healthy
Oh, good.
relationship, that what we've been taught or what we see or what we think it's supposed to be is our partner takes care of us and we'll take care of them.
Right.
And that is not a healthy relationship. What we're talking about today is that a healthy relationship is when I am able to fully care for myself. I give myself what I need. I give myself the life that I have wanted. And when I do that, then I am able to bring all of me in that into my marriage and share that with my husband. I don't need anything from him. And I can hear the yeah buts because I had lots of yeah buts too about that. Well, then what's the point of a relationship if I'm doing everything I need for myself? Isn't a relationship supposed to be 50-50 and tit for tat? And what we have learned in our research and what I've learned in my own marriage and the women that I work with is that when we are able to provide what we need for ourselves and get that within ourselves, we're actually able to show up loving and caring with our partners. And when you're with a good man, then they are right there with you, loving and caring back, and you get to share that intimate experience together. And that cannot happen when we're depending on our partner to give us some portion or all of the portion of our lives to us. We have to do that for ourselves.
Beautiful. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
We're after the video that we're doing today, we're going to post a really good video that Will Smith did about a healthy relationship, and we'll put the link so you can watch it. And he does a really great job of describing what love is in his relationship with Jada, and it kind of ties into what we're saying. And sometimes, if you hear it from somebody else, you might grasp the concept, but he does a really good job of his understanding of what a healthy, loving relationship is. So we'll put that link in after the video so you can watch it. We tried to do it within our broadcast, but we didn't know, we couldn't get the technology correct.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Karen, for sharing. I often say one of the things that is important at a new life center is that we have true teachers here, that everybody here is doing their own work in their relationships. So when you work with Karen,
Hmm.
you know that she's there doing her work and rolling up her sleeves, and everything she's doing is because she's learning it firsthand as a real teacher. And that's really important. So thank you, Karen, for doing this hard work and allowing the women to know there is a path and a way to have a loving and intimate relationship with yourself and sharing with another person, and the life and the marriage that you always dreamed of that is possible, and it's just around the corner by willing to take responsibility for your own happiness and to take the first steps of dropping at walls. And if you're with a good man, and it's almost like magic. So thank you so much.
Of
And
course.
anything you want to say and wrap up?
Well, just in wrapping up, if you're realizing, oh, I've got what a healthy relationship is all backwards, and you're ready to do the work to sort through that and become that unique individual responsible for your life and feeling alive and knowing who you are and the person that were always meant to be. If you're ready to do that work and learn that roadmap, then please private message me and we'll set up a breakthrough call where we'll dive into your issues and help you get clarity and awareness around what's really going on. And we can also see if you're a good fit for our program and get you on that path, get you on that journey to doing the work to have a healthy relationship with yourself and therein with your partner or with your husband. So
Well,
please private message me and we can set something up. That's
thank you
all.
so much, Karen. That's beautiful. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you being supportive, and I hope you have a great day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.